back to hear me. But it's a real privilege. I love doing it. I hope that we can meet your needs. But before we begin, it's a good idea to pray. So you don't mind pausing for a moment and placing yourself in the presence of God. Lord, you have told us that you have given us life and given it to the full. Tonight, we reflect on how we are able to live each life, particularly at the end of a person's life, to the very fullest, respecting your gift of life, understanding the opportunity that we have to celebrate that life and to give people life until they are able to die. So help us to walk with us. This is a scary topic. It's one that people are very uncomfortable with, and it's one that takes a great deal of help and understanding. Help us so that we can help other people explain these situations to others so that they might be more able to make the decisions that they have to make. And I make all these prayers in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, thank you again. There is not a time that I do this talk that somebody doesn't come up to me and say, "You relieved me of a tremendous amount of guilt because I had to make decisions for my mother, father, grandmother, whatever, and I was unfamiliar making those decisions. I made the decisions that I thought were good, were acceptable, and what you told me is I did the thing that's right." So I've already talked to somebody who's here to kind of discover that, and I think last time I did it, I was at Christ the King in Syracuse. And I did it for senior citizens. So they were all individuals who were a little advanced in age. And one man got to the podium and just started crying. He was 85. He said, "I buried my wife 2 weeks ago. And what you told me is I did the right thing." And he goes, "I can't tell you what a relief that is." So hopefully, as a result of our time together, we can help other people to come to that understanding. It's a difficult understanding. These are complicated issues. You got a couple of these little cards. I'm going to grab this up. All right. I grabbed the wrong box. I should have grabbed a box that would have about 100 of these for each of you. And what I usually do is when I do a presentation is ask people to take them. So maybe what I can do is figure out a way to get some out to the Good News Foundation and place them around parishes. Last Sunday night, I got a call, just to show you how real this is. Someone said, "My mother is in the intensive care. She has had aspirational pneumonia. That means because she vomited something, some of the vomit went into her lungs, similar to what happened to the Holy Father. She's doing okay. The doctors feel that she's not going to get any better, and they want to stop giving her nutrition and hydration and think that they should put her into palliative care. What do you think?" Now, by the end of the talk, you might have a little bit of insight into this, but I just want to let you know how really serious this is and how complicated. All right? Now, if you go to our website, is it on here? Yeah, the bottom. This talk is there, among other talks. There's a series of talks on pastoral care. So if you like helping other people, that's something I've been discussing with the folks here at Holy are at the Good News Sound Foundation, and me doing a Saturday of an all-day training of pastoral care skills. But if you need to go and review any of this stuff at some point, know that this is the location and you can get it and make it acceptable. Dr. Fianco and I got a $500,000 grant from the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation to develop this, and we were very lucky. Dan Cummings, who was on Channel 9, is a friend of mine. He was just leaving Channel 9, so I hired him as our producer for the 19 videos that went with this show. So they're very, very professionally put together. So we're going to look at more medical moral issues. And let's see what we got here. Why are we not? We tried this. Oh, I see why. This is new. Okay. That kind of relates to the pastoral care. All right. There are changes. 100 years ago, think about it. What did your grandparents die of? Most of them.
Heart attack.
Heart attack, stroke. Pneumonia was a big one. Pneumonia they used to call the maker of saints. Because it was that, particularly before they had antibiotics. Okay, so they used to die of infectious diseases for the most part. But due to technological advances, people die of what we would call chronic illnesses, such as cancer, congestive heart failure, COPD. There's a whole bunch of them that take a long time to reach the end of the line. So while technology and research has extended our life, it's also presented us with a number of new moral issues. And that's kind of where we're going to go tonight. Let me grab a little bit of more water before I start coughing. Okay, why is this important? And again, this was planned for pastoral ministers. Each of you, I'm sure, is a type of pastoral minister. There are people who don't understand Catholic end-of-life moral teaching. One of the more common things that people don't understand is that we don't have to do everything available to keep the heart pumping. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But there are a number of things. That's one thing that people don't understand. There are some of the more nuanced issues about that, and that people are coming to understand, and we can help them. Since physician-assisted suicide is already legal in a number of states, more and more people are going to ask us about that. And also, what I'm telling the pastoral care ministers, if you get into a difficult situation, don't hesitate to bring in a deacon or a priest to help the individual out. So just kind of a caution there for them, more for you. Our overview, what we're going to talk about is the Catholic vision of life. I can't remember which Broadway musical this song, if you don't have a dream, if you don't have a dream, how are you gonna have a dream come true? What's that in? Well, nonetheless, that wasn't the important part. The important part is that you have to have a vision. When I was studying to be a guidance counselor, one of the books that we used, it was a crazy course in career counseling. It wasn't one of those courses that just that would jump out at you.
It's in South Pacific.
South Pacific, okay. Thank you. Keep talking, happy talk. Okay, now I got it. Okay. But the title of this book in career counseling was, If You Don't Know Where You're Going, Any Place is Good. And it was so insightful, because if you don't have that vision, how do you know when you're going to get there? So we start out with, what's the Catholic vision of life? And many other Christian denominations share this with us. This isn't exclusive to the Catholic community. Then I want to look at ordinary and extraordinary medical treatments. All right? I want to be able to define them. And I think that this is important because ordinary treatments are required, extraordinary treatments are not required. And many people don't understand that. So I want to help you understand how we got there. Then there are burdensome treatments. And this is a very personal issue. If the treatment is a heavy burden for the individual, it's not required. Okay, so if I broke my leg in the middle of Africa and needed to have my leg amputated, I wouldn't have to subject myself, particularly if there were no anesthesia, I wouldn't have to subject myself to that treatment because it's a burdensome treatment. Okay? And one of the things that I say here is most of Catholic theology is black and white. When we get to burdensome treatment, we hit gray. So this takes a little bit more doing. Quality of life issues, sometimes that's misused, and I just wanted to talk about that. Pain management, which is probably where some of you are coming from in terms of questions that you might have. Nutrition and hydration, when's it required, when isn't it required? Organ donation, and the healthcare proxy and some other documents. I'm going to give a break probably about 2/3 of the way through. And then you can get, but in the meantime, if you'd like a drink, if you need to go to use the restroom, if you have to take a call, please don't hesitate to do that. I taught for all these number of years, and I've had people do everything that could possibly happen in my class. So it's not going to bother me. Also, if you have a question and need a clarification, that's good too. Raise your hand. At various sections, there might be something that you'd like to double back and seek a clarification on. Don't hesitate. Okay? Now, we're going to fundamental Catholic teaching. We believe there's nobody that would argue with the fact that we believe in eternal life. And there comes a point in one's illness where we have to accept our human mortality with the profound Christian hope in the life to come. So we believe in not only this life, but we believe in the life to come. In that sense, death becomes our doorway to eternal life. And that's very, very forceful. But it's important that we see both. That we do believe in eternal life, we believe in life here, and we also believe in the fact that there's a limit. At some point, I was good before I started. All right, now, Catholic teaching about life, just as a way of review. I doubt that anybody is going to be surprised by any of this, and many of the other Christian denominations also share these teachings. First of all, we believe that life is a gift from God. We're made in the image and likeness of God, imago Dei. Therefore, every life is sacred, and every life never loses its dignity. Now, here comes a little something that's going to be a little different. We are the stewards of our lives, not the owners. This is very different than what our society is saying. Our job is to take care of our lives because it's a gift. But we are responsible, but as stewards, we're responsible to take ordinary, or what we may also call proportionate, care to protect our lives. And we also know that every life deserves respect and the protection of law. That doesn't always happen in the laws in our country, but we would like it to happen. So we've got that. There's special protection. I want to go back. How many of you, no, when I made my first communion 3,000 years ago, they gave us a little blue book. I doubt if too many in this room remember the little blue book. But the little blue book had catechism questions. Question 1 was, who made you? Question 2 was, why did God make you? God made me to know, love, and serve him in this world and be happy with him in the next. So here from the early ages of 7, we're helping young people to understand why God made us and that we are to serve him in this world and ultimately be happy with him in the next. There's a lot of theology in question number 2. Actually, they did a pretty good job. It's just we kind of overdid the questions. The questions became the end as opposed to the understanding becoming the end. So that's where we were. I mean, every kid of my vintage or older who came through, God, why did God make it? And you know, to today, I don't bat an eyelash. I just crank it right out. And many of you did too. I could see you mouthing the words. All right, now, special protection. People with special needs who are vulnerable members of our society require particular care. All right? So for us, direct suicide or assisted suicide, direct euthanasia, any action that would directly intend to end the lives of the sick, the dying, the preborn, and others are morally unacceptable. And we show respect for those with special needs by providing them with ordinary medical treatment. And we will get to defining ordinary medical treatment a little bit in a couple more slides, but just kind of pack that in for you. All right, now, for how do we get here? Catholic moral teaching has a whole system. We don't just go willy-nilly into the things that we believe and that we don't believe. If you notice, from the beginning of this talk, I have been looking at very fundamental issues. What do we believe about life? Special considerations and the like. So Catholic moral theology provides us with the moral principles to guide how we can, I'm going to pull my little bar off here, how we can work our way through these moral issues. All right, now, one of the good things about moral principles is that we apply it to different situations. It's a matter of saying, okay, I have the Catholic vision. I understand moral theology. How do I apply it to this particular situation? And that's an important piece. So it's contained right now, you can get all kinds of books on it. The most succinct place to notice this is in the Ethical and Religious Directives for Catholic Health Care in the United States. So any Catholic health care organization, nursing home, hospital, chronic care agency, any of those, have to abide by these directives. If they don't, the bishop of the local diocese can say, I am going, it seems like you're not following these directives. If you continue not to follow these directives, I'm going to revoke your ability to call yourself Catholic. So in most cases, when there's something like this happens, the bishop will sit down with the particular hospital or healthcare agency and have a discussion. And usually there's a lot of clarification, and we're able to kind of resolve the issue to the benefit of everyone. But that does happen, and I've been involved in some of those discussions with hospitals. All right, now this document is periodically reviewed. The last time it was written or published was 2018. So I expect a revision coming soon. It's approved by the Vatican Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, and again, published worthwhile. What happens is Rome will send a document to our bishops, to the committee, the USCCB, the committee that deals with healthcare. They will wrestle with it, and they will send it back and say, gee, we found a couple of issues. There is one that we will talk about here regarding hydration. And what happens is the Rome will either say yay or nay. And in many cases, in this last case, and we'll get to it, Rome said, I see your point, but it's not always applicable. So Rome said, this is an exception. We can grant this exception, but not for all cases. So if the case falls into the area of the exception, we can use that. But not everything is an exception, and it'll make more sense when I give you a concrete example. All right, now, the moral theology gives us the roadmap, and basically a roadmap to avoid extremes. First of all, one of the extremes is vitalism. And this is something that a lot of people were kind of concerned about. Human life is absolute and must be preserved at all costs. All right, in other words, we have to keep the heart beating no matter what. That's the ultimate goal. All right, now, that kind of is in conflict with the fact that we have to accept the end of our life with human frailty, with death as our doorstep to eternal life. So there's what the bishops are saying is that human life is not absolute. We have many responsibilities. However, when we come to the end, we come to the end. All right, another thing is subjectivism. This is common right now. Life has value only when the individual person who is deemed as the owner, not the steward, but the owner, gives it value. All right, my life has value only as long as I say it has value. All right, and obviously that's in conflict with life as a sacred gift from God. We're the stewards, not the owners. And then finally, pragmatism, which is creeping its way in, that life has value only if the individual contributes to society. What we're saying is the individual doesn't have to contribute. As long as the person exists, they have value. Because that life is sacred. So you see how once you see how a whole system of moral theology tends to fall in place. Now, biggest distinction, and one I need you to spend some time on. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary treatments. All right, it's important. And obviously, it has been part of Roman theology for a long time. However, Pius the 12th in 1957 decided that there was a need to articulate the difference. He does this in a presentation to the Italian anesthesiologist. He used this as a presentation to the world, to Catholic moral theologians. All right. And he said that the distinction between ordinary and extraordinary means is that ordinary means have a reasonable chance of returning the person to health. Extraordinary means do not have a reasonable chance of returning the person to health. They may not. But there's a distinction there. Now, for that reason, we are obligated to take ordinary means to preserve our life. That's what we do. We don't have to take extraordinary means. Now, Pope St. John Paul II reaffirmed this tradition. And he said to forego extraordinary treatment is not suicide or murder. Big, big teaching. Many people will be in the hospital and say, if I don't do this for my brother, husband, whatever, aren't I not killing him? Or if I don't take that treatment, am I not committing suicide? Well, it depends. If it's ordinary treatment, yes. If it's extraordinary treatment, no. And we'll unpack that a little bit more. But I just thought it's significant for people to know there's nobody who is more pro-life than St. John Paul II. And for him to feel strongly enough that he put this into a statement is important for us, I think, as Catholics. Now, ordinary treatment provides a patient reasonable hope of return and doesn't present an excessive burden. We talked about burden a minute ago. All right? And examples of these: hygiene, bed rest, basic medicine, physical therapy, things like that. Now, as stewards of our life, and we've mentioned this a little before this, we have an obligation to accept this treatment. All right, if there's medicine that can bring us to return to health, then we need to accept that. All right? Okay, and we go to the other end of the spectrum. While I unfortunately have to blow my nose, I thought I took enough antihistamines. It's just the opposite. It's treatment that doesn't offer reasonable hope. Not a guarantee, but reasonable hope. And ordinary treatment was reasonable hope of benefit to the patient. It's treatment that doesn't involve excessive hardship, such as excessive pain, expenses, or inconvenience. Excessive is the key word here. We're not obliged to accept these treatments and may forego or withdraw these treatments. Let's go on. Question. Is a ventilator then ordinary or extraordinary treatment?
Depending on the situation.
All right, explain.
If they still have a chance to breathe on their own.
Okay, that's pretty good. Did you take this course before?
My stepdad went through this.
Oh, all right.
Then it got to the point where it was extraordinary, so I had to make the decision to take him off it.
Okay. Yeah, helping a patient breathe for a few days as they recover from pneumonia is ordinary treatment. But a patient in the final stages of lung cancer being connected to a ventilator could be burdensome and could simply prolong that dying process. Do you see the distinction? If it helps, we have to do it. If it doesn't have a reasonable chance of helping, we don't have to do it. Yes?
My question is, who decides what's reasonable? Is it the doctor, the family together, or who decides what's reasonable?
Well, it's a very good question. And we will get to it. However, just let me give you a little taste.
Health proxy.
Yep. If the person is not able to make the decision for themselves, the person that they have indicated as a healthcare proxy makes that decision.
But the decision is in the healthcare proxy, the person has to carry that out. The person, like the patient would have,
Well, the patient would have explained what types of things they would like. The healthcare proxy has to apply it. Does it apply in this situation? And I'm not going to go any more in that because I will get to that at the end. When we talk about advanced care directives and healthcare proxies, the big thing is when you get to one, everybody in the world should have a healthcare proxy. And there is a Catholic healthcare proxy, which is accepted by New York State. It's written by the National Catholic Bioethics Association, and it has everything you need. People will say, no, I don't want this one, I want New York State. And you say, what I say is, this is acceptable by New York State, and this is the one I'm going to use, so here it is. When I go to the doctor, when I go to the hospital, I take that, I staple the advanced care directive, and I give it to them. All right? We need to tell people, and those who are making decisions for us, what's important to us and why. Because again, they are going to have to, and you're 100% right, they are going to have to apply these principles as smoothly as we do. So they're going to need, it's an important conversation, a difficult conversation. Because a lot of people don't want to hear about it. Oh, no, you're not going to die. Well, you are. I don't want to, we are. There's a group out of Utah, the Conversation Project, that has a number of scenarios that help you use, they give you kind of like models of how you can share these things with others. Because it is important, it's an important conversation. What do you want? One of my brothers, I'm sure, would end up as a vitalist. He'd want to keep the heart beating as long as possible. Well, I thank him for that, but if my brain has stopped functioning and I have flatlined, I'm dead. So while the heart may be pumping, Chuck's gone. But again, that's a discussion that we have to have with people, and it's very freeing once you have these discussions. It's helpful to the healthcare proxy because so many of you have mentioned that when you visit or have to make decisions that you're not prepared for, only within your instincts, that's hard. That's very hard, and you feel uncomfortable doing it. So our hope is that we can help those people who are making those decisions for us as comfortable as possible. Now, I say that everybody, not only the senior citizens, should have this healthcare proxy. Because anybody can walk out of this place, get hit by a bus and die. Okay, so it doesn't matter how old or how young you are, you should have one. You should say, yes.
Do you agree a DNR you should have at any age
No.
also? Oh, no?
No, if someone is seriously ill, and we'll talk about that when we get to discuss. If someone is seriously ill, then we can use a DNR. But I've seen too many cases where you go to the doctor's office, you're 65 years old and in perfect health, and he wants you to sign a DNR.
Yeah.
That's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. Now, if you were 65 and had stage 4 cancer, that's appropriate. Then if he asked you to sign it, then I would say, yes, go ahead and sign it. But it's the medical situation, medical group is pushing all this stuff. And really don't understand where we're coming from in terms of this is an end-of-life decision. In fact, well, let me just hold it off. See, once I get going, I cross over back and forth so many times. But if the person is near death, a DNR is by all means appropriate. If they aren't, no. So yes, it depends. It depends. So many of these things, the answer I have to give is it depends. It depends on their situation in life, on what's going on, and a whole number of other things. All right, now let's go to burden. Remember we said, in most cases, Catholic theology, things are black and white. Here's where the gray comes in. All right. Medical treatment can be deemed a burden or disproportionate if it involves excessive pain, inconvenience, cost. All right. Let me go to this other side because the light is causing glare. Determining if a treatment is burdensome involves a subjective judgment. Usually, I'm going to jump up on here if you don't mind.
Sure.
Usually, we're looking at objective. But as an individual, you can say this is too burdensome. A treatment is determined to be a burden. If the treatment is determined to be burdensome, there's no obligation. Examples make a big difference. An older patient with multiple health conditions who is diagnosed with advanced cancer may find chemotherapy too burdensome. All right, so I had an aunt who was 90-something, who was diagnosed with cancer in her stomach. She had a number of complicated other issues going on. She and the doctor determined that they wouldn't do chemotherapy, that they would let nature take its course because it would be too burdensome. Now, a young mother who's otherwise healthy may not find it burdensome. Okay, so you see the difference between burden and a non-burdensome accent. It is very difficult because there are so many different ways of understanding. Now, even among them, among these possibilities, is finance, severe finance. You don't have to go broke to keep the person alive. All right? Because we have a responsibility to community resources. However, in most cases, it's rare that people go broke. For some, I'm sure it would. What do we got there? All right. I like this. I like graphs. I like things that are clear. All right. What can create a burden? Overall health. Are there underlying circumstances, underlying conditions, prognosis? What are they talking about? Are they doing well, or are they kind of not responding to treatment? What's the proposed treatment? How much pain is this going to cause the patient? What's the expectation for recovery? What stage is the patient in the dying process? What are the side effects, and how will that affect the patient's overall life? How does the patient see this as a personal assessment, and what are the resources that are available, and certainly the cost? And I put the reference in because a lot of people said, well, don't tell me you're worried about money. I said, I'm not worried about money, but there are limits to money. And the doctrine is very explicit in the ethical and religious directives when they talk about excessive amounts of money. So it's one way of determining whether something is a burden or not. It's probably clearest at the extremes, like the two examples that I gave. It does take a little doing. Now, burdensome treatment, since this is a moral decision, it's critical that the patient receives accurate information from the medical staff. It's advisable that the patient seek the counsel of family members, a priest, or another trusted advisor, and that this decision be made by the patient or a surrogate, not the medical staff. Again, you or somebody you designate as a healthcare proxy should be making that decision, not the doctor. Sometimes they try.
Father?
Yes.
Excuse me. It seems like folks who are supportive of physician-assisted suicide would use that argument, maybe twist a little bit. What's your thoughts on that, the burden, the excess? I'm stopping my life because it's costing too much, it's a burden on my family.
Well, it depends on the costing too much. I can see how that might be the case. If it is truly bankrupting the family, and I would say go back to the actual the directives. If it is truly bankrupting the family, then that's one thing. If it's just a cost and convenience, that's another thing. Another way of looking at it is, in most cases, people have insurance. So the chances that it's going to be excessively costly are limited. But you make a good point, though. You make a good point.
And you may have to travel out of town,
Mm-hmm.
get hotels, babysitters for your kids,
Now, there are a whole...
not working. I
Right,
mean,
a whole bunch of things.
financially, that could impact.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and in many cases, it does become financially burdensome, but those are rare. However, I gotta talk about them. I can't ignore it and not present it. But those are situations that we can deal with. And
Father,
yes,
what if somebody's going through a lot of chemo treatments, and then they're in and out of the hospital? Because a friend of mine came in, and he said one day, my sister doesn't want any more treatments. She just doesn't want to do anymore. She's already been through a lot. That's not suicide or anything like that.
no, that's burdensome treatment.
That's, right, okay.
Until they got to the point of
Because a lot
saying,
are doing
I can't take these treatments anymore. Because I mean, as we all know, there's side effects
Right,
to chemo. And if people who have done the chemo and say, I just can't go on,
because they could give you more and then more
I
and everything.
have done all that I can do, and I'm gonna, now, here's what we do, is they're saying, I'm gonna let nature take its course. I'm not gonna kill myself.
Right, okay.
But here's where we go back to the John Paul II piece, to forego treatment that is extraordinary. And burdensome treatments are extraordinary. Now, again, it's a matter of, not all chemo is extraordinary burdensome, but when people get to that point and say, I can't go on, then it is
Straight
truly
away, I didn't take
burdensome.
any
Yeah.
more. They
Yeah.
were sick in and out of the hospital and everything.
Yeah, so those are things that we have to be as compassionate as we can while we're dealing with it. And be honest and say, is this really burdensome or isn't it? The situation you described clearly was. All right, quality of life, first context. The choice to forgo or withdraw treatment, that would be extraordinary treatment. So treatment that wouldn't be beneficial, treatment that's determined by a patient or surrogate, delegate, is burdensome or painful, extraordinarily painful, may be done in favor of avoiding the hardship, extraordinary or burdensome treatment, perhaps permitting the patient to enjoy the time the person has left and letting them let nature take its course, and that's basically what you were describing. Now, second one is a definition of quality of life that we don't accept. In the case of a disabled or terminal patient, these are being used right now in the case of patients with dementia. Very, very much. All right, decisions made by another individual or institution, the patient is no longer has an acceptable quality of life. The question is acceptable to who? To us? To them? To the patient, to the patient's family, or to the doctor and the healthcare institution. And these individuals would hold that taking the patient's life is justified. Direct taking of a life is absolutely not permissible in Catholic theology. All right, here's, well,
Getting
before
back
I...
to that, Father,
Yep.
one of the things, I mean, you see people in some nursing homes that, you know, they're crying daily, they hate being there, they're treated poorly, and all that other stuff. And then you turn around and say, well, that's not burdensome. And yet, because they're demented or impaired and things like that, do they not know that this is happening to them? Maybe they do. How do you balance that out?
That's a very difficult one, and one that the moral theologians are wrestling with right now. The direction that I would go is, are they really being poorly treated, or are they just, because they're demented, really upset with what's going on?
It could be both.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit of both.
Well, that doesn't, I think you have to sort that out. Yeah, Tom?
Having a bit of experience with nursing homes for the last 20 years or so, I'd like to offer one aspect is fix the nursing home. Ship in get an ombudsman in there to examine these individuals' particular circumstances and the quality of the nursing home. That first, and then perhaps considering the other aspects, because there are some, the difference in nursing homes in our area and every place
Any
else
area.
is radical.
Well, if you read the Syracuse Herald Journal, if you see what goes on at Bishop and the Van Dyne, they're nightmares. Those are two, I mean, the only reason the state lets them remain open is we need the nursing homes beds in Syracuse. But they are nightmares, and there are ways of being able to intervene with either, the ombudsman is a very good program, also your own personal attorney.
Yep.
To be able to do that. But that's a good place to start. And in many cases, that can be helpful. Question is the patient, and there's a question I would ask, is the patient being given reasonable pain control? Is the patient being given reasonable, are they given enough medication for depression? Or do they just not want to spend the money for the medication? Because they get hit from Medicare when they spend any money for a patient. So how well medicated is the patient in terms of pain, in terms of, particularly depression? Depression hits just about everybody who's in pain. And severe depression, people want to die. And I can understand that. But what kind of palliative care is the patient receiving?
But if given too much of medication, then the person's just lying there and almost
Yeah.
lifeless.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know
Well,
if that's.
no,
good
you're
either.
right, you're right. And I wouldn't lobby for that. I would lobby for a reasonable amount of, okay, how can we get him in the middle of the spectrum? Tom, were you gonna say something?
Well, yes, apparently lifeless on the exterior experience, but may still have internal mental function that's, you know, well, you can't look into their brain. You can only look into their eyes, and the other thing is, one of the ways to prevent that thing from happening is continual visiting to the nursing home with a powerful presence of the individual family.
You
And
have to
that'll
be
stave
very
a lot of
vocal
that
and
off.
And a strong advocate. Yeah, but I mean, the point you make
Yeah.
is valid.
Yes.
Too much medication is just going to make them zombies, more or less. I hate to
Thorazine.
use the word.
Yeah.
So what we want them to do is to be comfortable and reasonably well with it, so that they can enjoy what, I mean, if it's sitting there watching TV and the price is right and they enjoy it, that's what we want them to do. Does that make
Yep.
kind of sense?
It's still a difficult situation.
Oh, hell, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely not, very, very difficult. Okay, let's take a quick break. I'm gonna do this a little earlier because we're gonna jump into pain medication, and I'm sure you're gonna have loads of questions to ask, because that's what happens at the end of life and how we approach that. Okay, so what do we got? 5 minutes maybe? Can we say 5 minutes, everybody?